Hey Dustin, I'm so sorry for taking so long to get this to you. Unfortunately, we don't have like a standard one because the site changes so frequently that we haven't really been able to use one for longer than a couple months. So I just want to go through really quickly some of the basics on what you can edit, and then as you kind of start to play with it, you'll probably figure some things out, and you can always ask me. Um, and then the other good thing is because we have our version of the courses now, you can play around with it and you won't cause too many issues to the students who are live. So after logging in, you're going to go to courses, and let's say Algebra 1A. Don't know if I've told you this yet, but the method courses with the method in the title, those are live to students. Anything that is a typo or miskeyed or issues with the math, we need to change in both versions, in the method version and our version, which doesn't have a title. And then anything that you're going to be doing in terms of overhauling the courses, that will just be in this one. So essentially, the students are going to stay in those method versions through the end of this year, and then we'll roll out the brand new versions next year. Okay, so let's go into this one. So you'll go to edit, and I think you've seen this from the student end, so you'll see there are lessons, assignments, quizzes, and then the new applications that we're not really dealing with at this point. But so for lessons, if you go in, click here, you'll get a list of all the lessons. Some of them may be unpublished, and that could be we've deactivated them because they had too many errors or they're buggy on the other side. So anything like that, you just want to leave alone for now on both ends. In the actual lesson, actions, edit. So anytime you see an iframe, that means there's a video there. And I'll show you how to input videos in a second. Okay, so this is the, it's a CK editor. I don't know much about it other than the title, but it's pretty basic. You can do, um, heading sizes, size, color, basic bullet points. The other thing you'll notice, especially since you've been on the student end, is what we see here doesn't directly translate to what they see there, so the font won't look the same, where that's on the list of edits for the developers. So if you're kind of trying to figure out like how to make it like format it, it's not always gonna work out. So you can, I just don't stress about that. Okay, I'll show you how to insert a couple things because there's some kind of tricky things that doesn't work like you would expect a normal website to work. But what I do want to show you is the equations, because I think that's what you're seeing a lot of issues with. We use this, and it's a very kind of low budget version of LaTeX. I don't know if you've used that before. I and a couple of people are kind of self-taught. I'm not very fast with it, so we have 5 contractors. When things get crazy in math, we have 5 contractors that code, and they're really, really fast. So don't feel pressured like you need to learn it or figure it out unless you already know it or you really want to. You can go ahead and do that. But if you double click, you'll get this. This one's pretty straightforward because it doesn't have anything. Okay, so something like this. So you'll have to find this code to set up the fraction, and then you have your parentheses. I can send you, or you can click here and that will give you a lot of what we use is in here, and then usually I just Google to add it in. You'll see it's always the backslash and then whatever the word is or the code is to create this. So it's not that hard to figure out. I think in calculus, sorry if you know this and I'm telling you things you know, in calculus when the codes are like lines and lines long, we generally have the coders work on those so that they can go a little faster. But you are welcome to do as much or as little of that as you want, and you have Ryan's contact so he can do all the editing for you if that's faster for you. Okay, so that's one thing, and then I'm going to create a brand new lesson so I could show you a couple of other things. To insert links, it's this one. It's pretty straightforward. Display text, the URL. To insert images, we have to and I always do 2 windows for images and videos because toggling back and forth in the platform is almost impossible. So you go to Media Library, you'll upload your image. Now we have the ability to tag them, so you'll see when you upload your file, you can tag it like Algebra 1. And we're supposed to be able to filter by the tags. I'm not sure that works really well yet. I tried it out a couple weeks ago and I wasn't able to pull up all my images, so that's just, I think, a work in progress. You want to have public access if students need to see it, otherwise they won't be able to view it. Okay, so once you upload it, it'll show up here. You're just going to click on it like I did. It opens here. You want to copy this, the URL that came up, and then when you insert, you're going to this image icon with the URL in. We have to keep the width at 50 at a percentage because it has responsive width on the mobile apps for the iPad and Android or whatever. So take out the height, put the width to either 50, 75, 25. Those are the 3 I usually work with. And then it'll insert it for you. Okay. Same process for embedding a PDF. You'll have to upload it to the media library, get the link, and then you're going to click this icon, title, link, put it in there. It embeds it right into the page. And one of these, the paste as plain text. If you're writing elsewhere and putting it in, we do want to paste as plain text. The formatting from anything else, Google Doc, Word Doc, except for like a notepad, it comes out distorted on the student end. So either that paste plain text or Shift Control Command V if you're on your keyboard. I think that's it. That's pretty much the most common things we use here. Oh, video. I didn't show you video. Video has to be hosted in YouTube or Vimeo right now. Hopefully this will be one of the first things that gets fixed when we have a new developer, but you should be able to upload a video here and then click the film strip, drop the link in. It does not always work. We've lost so much work this way. So from YouTube, sorry, I have like all my kids' videos that would come up. So,
hey guys,
you would go to share and you want the embed code. You're going to copy that, and then you'd have to go to the source here, paste that in. You get the iframe. Then we've been double clicking that and setting the width to 100% and taking out the height. And so you'll get something like that. And that, even though it looks weird here, that will show up correctly on the student end. And that's especially important if you're putting a video in an assignment, because you may have seen this, but it shows up as half the screen. So we want to make sure it's shrinking down to fit. Okay, so if you've created a new lesson, you want to make sure you have a title, publish it, not locking them, and then actually, no, we're not locking them. And then quiz reviewer is not functional. All right, quizzes. I'm going to do this in here with a warning that we are having this ongoing issue with the quiz questions in the live version, that if I open the question to edit it and then save it, it's deleting the equations. So I'm not going to save this. But it seems to be like periodic. I know this is a horrible thing to say, but you might want to just test it on one before you start correcting, 10, 15 questions, because we'll lose all the data. So same thing, you can input the equation, correct answer you want to select here. We have feedback was rolled out in the middle of last year when we had already created about 120 courses, so we haven't worked on implementing it retroactively, but as you're starting to revise Algebra 1 through Algebra 2, you can start to integrate the feedback there. We haven't been using this, but I think we're going to replace that with the standard, so you can leave that in easy multiple choice. We have an essay option. You have the option to setting it up so if it's essay, the students can record their voice, and then you can set the number of points per question. Okay. And to create a new quiz, let me kind of step back. You do create a new quiz, quiz name, you want a description. We password protect the final exams. Count towards grade, that would be up to you as the designer if it's a practice or if it's actually a graded assessment. Teacher, for all anything you upload, you want to put it as work uploader, because if you put your name, the students will start emailing you because they can click your name at the end of the quiz. So that's the generic one, so that they will contact their teacher, we hope. Theoretically, again, you can randomize the questions. So at the beginning, we were creating like a bank of 20 questions, randomizing them and saying have 5 appear, and then on a retake they would get a different 5. However, that also doesn't work. So chronological for now, and you want to make sure you set enough questions that you have that equal what's in the test bank, if that makes sense. So you don't want to say 10 here and only have 5 in the test bank, because then it skews their grades. Time limit is 30 minutes for quizzes. They standardize this for method, and 60 for exams. I might have to double check and let you know if that's changed. Passing score. So that would work with the quiz review that I'll have to talk to you about later, so because it doesn't work. So you'll leave that blank. Retakes, 2 for the math department for everything except for module exams, and the final, which would be 0. Quiz score to keep is the highest. This function doesn't work. This function doesn't work. Public for anything but the final exam. Start date, you want to just put the date you're creating it, because if you leave it blank, it creates an error, and we don't know enough about the pacing of the course to set a date ahead. And then final exam. For the final exam, obviously you would put yes, and it prompts the student to review and be sure that they actually want to start it, because they don't get a retake. Okay, so once you fill that out, and I can write this down for you if you want, because there's quite a few things you need to skip. You'll save, and once you save, it'll bring you to this screen where then you could add a new question. So we had an issue with the math equations disappearing that I think I mentioned. So the solution, I'm trying to make sure I have this right. The solution was to create this toggle between the regular editor and the advanced editor. So if you click advanced editor, now when you're in here, you get the equation icon back. If you are in basic editor, and it's backwards, so if it says advanced editor, you're in basic. If it says basic, you're in advanced. You see it's just an HTML input, and unless you know how to do that, which I don't, it will be hard to put the equations in, is what I'm trying to say. So for all math, I would just toggle to the advanced editor. And then to create a new question, you're going here, question stem here, we kind of talked about that, and your answer choices and the correct answer. Method has requested 4 choices unless we're modeling some sort of standardized test that has 3 or 6 or something that varies. Okay, and then assignments. They look similar to a lesson. You can put any content you want here that would be the directions for the student. Name of the assignment, points, publish it. If you want them to be able to speak, you can change that. If you want it locked, what it should do when it works is make it so the teachers can't change it, which is, I mean, I would use it sparingly, like for things that you think would be mandatory. Count towards grade, again, you can have like a practice or something you just want the students to submit, but it's not necessarily graded. Oh, I didn't mention the study guide. So in the student version, you might have noticed on the right side there's a little study guide tab. If you want to prompt them to write anything in that study guide, you can write it here. But what I was going to get to was the answer key and rubric. So on the teacher end, when they're grading, if they open up an assignment to grade it, they can't see what the assignment was. They just see the student submission. So what we started doing in this field is whatever we're writing here in the content, we're copying it here in the key because they can see that. And then at the bottom or at the end of it, you can write your key, your rubric, anything you think they need to grade. Okay. Applications are mostly for the teachers. Oh, modules. So once you have your modules set up, you would create it. It's just like the lessons. You're creating your module name. Some of these we actually do leave unpublished because if we want, especially in the live courses, if we want to be working on anything in that module while the students are in it, we don't want them to see it, we'll unpublish it. None of this works. And then the lock feature, when it works, will make it so that the teachers can't take things out, which I don't think we'll be really allowed to use. So here, we've been putting kind of an overview. You'll see that it's just this. Other options at the very beginning, we were putting videos in there that kind of gave an overview of all the content. When you're going, once you have these set up, then when you're going to add the actual content that you've created all here, you would go to actions and you can add any of these. So add lesson, it's a drop down. You would click everything that you want to add in there and it'll populate here. And then add assignment, anything you want to add, and it'll populate in there. In here you can drag to put them in order. So you'll notice when you add a bunch of stuff, it doesn't necessarily come in the correct order. So if you've gone through and kind of wondered why do they have all these weird numbering schemes, that's why. So that when we have our we have a couple of data entry people build the courses, it's easy for them to just put everything in numerical order. And then you'll also see like all of the ones are in module 1 and then all of the 3s are in module 3. So just so that it's easy for someone who doesn't know the course content to put it back in order. Okay, I think, I'm trying to look on the side. That's all that you're going to use probably ever, unless things change dramatically. We kind of live in the courses tab. And then these first 3 lessons, assignments, and quizzes are ours. And yeah, that's the crash course. Let me know if you have any questions.